Hi everyone, and welcome to the Syncretism Society Virtual Academy, and my name is Mehmet. And today's video will be the first of a brand new series which I'm starting, and I'm going to start looking a bit deeper into the medical side of astrology and bring that side of it to you guys. We've already looked at the main stuff like the planets, the signs, the birth chart, the houses, the decans, and we've also looked at many of the esoteric stuff that correlates with astrology, which I'll continue to do in my other videos. But today, yeah, I'm going to start delving a bit more deeper into the medical side of it. And specifically for the first 5 or 6 videos, I'm going to be concentrating on the cell sorts. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen. I've got a little chart and I'll explain the brief concept of cell sorts. But then the main book I'm going to be using for us to study and to learn about this will be The Zodiac and the Sorts of Salvation by George W. Carey. So I'll share my screen, show you a couple of charts, and then we're going to do some reading. So without further ado, let's do that. So I have that already open here. So if I share and go back to this chart. So what are the cell sorts? So there are 12 cell sorts, and each cell sort correlates with one of the signs of the zodiac. So if I'll just go through them and name you them quickly, just to give you an introduction. So the sort that corresponds with Aries is potassium phosphate, Taurus, natrium sulfate, Gemini, potassium chloride, Cancer, calcium fluoride, Leo, magnesium phosphorica, Virgo, potassium sulfate, Libra, natrium phosphate, Scorpio, calcium sulfate, Silica, Sagittarius, Capricorn, calcium phosphate, Aquarius, sodium chloride, and Pisces, ferrum phosphate. So obviously, because there's 12 sorts, but we're only in our mother's womb for 9 months, while we're being generated inside the womb, we'll be deficient of 3 of these sorts. So, and the sorts you'll be deficient of is your birth month or your birth sign, and then the 2 signs after. So for example, in my case, being a Scorpio, my 3 sorts I'll be deficient of would be calcium sulfate, silica, and calcium phosphate. So for an Aries, it would be potassium phosphate, natrium sulfate, and potassium chloride. So it's always your sign, the sort assigned to your sun sign, and the 2 signs after will be the ones that you're deficient in. Also, you may be deficient in others if you have other bad aspects medically in your chart, but that's kind of a different subject. I'm just trying to introduce you guys to the basics of each person being deficient of 3 cell sorts. So in this lesson, what I want to do is just concentrate on the subject of what cell sorts are in general. And then the following videos, I'm going to go through each sort and each sign and how it connects to it. So the way I'll do that, I'll probably go through the season. So I'll do Aries, Taurus, and Gemini next week for spring, and then I'll do summer, autumn, and winter. And then after we do the basic parts of that, we can start looking at what foods correlate with which sorts and start looking at more stuff in relation to medical astrology. I have done one video prior to this in relation to medical astrology, and it was called Astrology in the Body. And that is just showing you the basics of which part of the body each sign is associated to. So I suggest you check that video out as well. But without further ado, I'm going to go into the first part of our reading, and this chapter in Zodiac and the Sorts of Salvation is called Biochemistry. And like I said, this is going to be about 3 or 4 pages, and it's just the general outline of what cell sorts are and how they work. So without further ado, let's get into it. So biochemistry means that chemistry of life, or the union of inorganic and organic substances whereby new compounds are formed. In its relation to so-called disease, this system uses inorganic salts known as cell salts or tissue builders. The constituent part of man's body are perfect principles, namely oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, lime, iron, potash, soda, silica, magnesia, etc. These element gases, etc., are perfect per se, but may be endlessly diversified in a combination as many the planks, bricks, or stones with a building which is about to be erected. A shadow cannot be removed by chemicals, neither can disease be removed by poison. There is nothing, no thing to be removed in either case, but there is a deficiency to be supplied. The shadow may be removed by supplying light to the space covered by the shadow. So ultimately, what that's saying is when there is something wrong with us, it's not that we've caught something, it's actually that we have a lack of something and we need to ingest that within our body. So symptoms called disease disappear or cease to manifest when the food called for is furnished. The human body is a receptacle or a storage battery and will always run well while the chemicals are present in proper quantity and combination. As surely as an automobile will run when charged and supplied with the necessary ingredients to vibrate or cause motion. The cell salts are found in our foods and thus carried into the blood when they carry on the process of life. And by law, let me just make this slightly smaller, and by the law of chemical affinity, keep the human form bodily functions materialize. When a deficiency occurs and any of these workers through a non-assimilation of food, poor action of liver or digestive process, dematerialization of the body commences. So disease is a deficiency in some of the chemical constituents that carry on the chemistry of life and not an entity. Again, it's just backing up saying that disease isn't actually a thing in your body, but like it says, a lack of something in your body. Having learned that disease is not a thing, but a condition due to a lack of some inorganic constituent of the blood, it follows naturally that proper method of cure is to supply the blood with that of which is lacking. In the treatment of disease, the use of anything, not a constituent of blood, is unnecessary. This is a quote from a different author, so I'll just quickly read that as well anyway. So it says, the 12 mineral salts, in a very real sense, the material basis of the organs and tissues of the body and are absolutely essential to the integrity and structure and functional activity. Experiments prove that the various tissue cells will rapidly disintegrate in the absence of proper proportion of these salts in the circulating fluid, whereas the maintenance of this proportion ensures healthy growth and perpetual renewal. The mineral salts are therefore a physical basis of all healing, regardless of the school employed. If these are absent from the blood and the tissues, no permanent cure is possible. So this is from Dr. Charles W. Littlefield. So now we're just going to carry on with the chapter. I thought I'll just read that as it's there. I know it's not a part of what George W. Carey said, but he's using it as a quote, so I thought I'd include that as well. So, in the strenuous age of reconstruction, while God's creative compounds are forming a new race in the morning of a new age, all who desire physical regeneration should strive by every means with their reach to build new tissue, nerve fluids, and brain cells, thus literally making new bottles for new wine. For it be known that all men, that the word wine used in scripture means blood when used in connection with man. It also means the sap of trees and juice of vegetables and fruits. The parable of turning water into wine at the marriage of Cana in Galilee is a literal statement of a process taking place every heartbeat in the human organism. Galilee means the circle of water or fluid, the circulatory system. Just to add, another great thing about this book, it uses a lot of references from the Bible. So as well as learning scientific stuff, it correlates it with theology and astrotheology, which is really cool. Okay, so biochemists have shown that food does not form blood, but simply furnishes the mineral base by setting free the inorganic or cell salts contained in all food stuff. The organic part, oil, fibrin, albumin, etc., contained in the food is burnt or digested in the stomach and the intestinal tract to furnish motive power to operate the human machine and draw air into the lungs, thence into the arteries, air carriers. Therefore, it is clearly proved that air, spirit, unites the minerals and forms blood, proving that the oil, albumin, etc., found in blood is created every breath at the marriage in Cana of Galilee. Air was called water or pure sea, so we see how water is changed into wine, blood, every moment. In the new age, we will need perfect bodies to correspond with the higher vibration or motion of new blood, for the old bottles, bodies, cannot contain new wine. Another allegorical statement typifying the same truth reads, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, i.e., a new mind and a new body." Biochemistry may well say with Walt Whitman, "To the sick lying on their backs I bring help, and to the strong, upright man I bring more needed help." To be grouchy, cross, irritable, despondent, or easily discouraged is prima facie evidence that the fluids of the stomach, liver, and brain are not vibrating at a normal rate, the rate that results in equilibrium or health. Health cannot be qualified, i.e., poor health or good health. There must be either health or dishealth, ease or dis-ease. We do not say poor ease or good ease. We say ease or dis-ease, or not at ease. The sufficient amount of cell salts of the body properly combined, taken as food, not simply to cure some ache, pain, or exudation, forms blood that materializes in healthy fluids, flesh, and bone tissue. We should take the tissue cell salts as one uses health foods, not simply to change not health to health, but to keep the rate of blood vibration in the tone of health all the time. So what it's ultimately saying, if we've got a constant balance of these 12 cell salts within us, then we won't get disease because our blood and the tone within us will be at the rate it's supposed to be. So there's another little mini section here called the ultimate of biochemistry. Excuse me. The microscope increases the rate of motion of the cells of the retina, and we see things that were occulted to the natural rate of vibration of sight cells. Increase the rate of activity of the brain cells by supplying more of the dynamic molecules of the blood known as mineral or cell salts of lime, potash, sodium, iron, magnesia, silica, and we see mentally truths that we could not sense at a lower or natural rates of motion, although the lower rate may manifest ordinary health. Let's make this slightly bigger. Natural man or natural things must be raised from the level of nature to supernatural in order to realize new concepts that lie waiting for recognition above the solar plexus, that is, above the animal or natural man. So obviously this is talking about ascension and going from your lower nature to your higher nature, which is quite ironic because obviously I've been doing lessons and a series on the chakras, which is about that whole process as well. The positive pole or being must be lifted up from the kingdom of earth animal desire below the solar plexus to the pineal gland, which connects to the cerebellum, the temple of the spiritual ego, with the optic thalamus, the third eye. By this regenerative process, millions of dormant cells of the brain are resurrected and set in operation, and then man no longer sees through a glass darkly, but with an eye of spiritual understanding. To those who object to linking chemistry with astrology, the writer has this to say: the cosmic law is not in at least distributed by negative statements of ignorant individuals. Those investigators of natural phenomena who delve deeply to find truth pay little heed to the dabbler who says, I can't understand how the zodiacal signs have any relation to the cell sorts or the human body. The sole reason that he cannot understand is because he never tried to understand. A little earnest, patient study will open the understanding of anyone possessed of ordinary intelligence and make plain the great truth of the universe is that the word implies one verse. Beautiful, beautiful statement. It's so true. You know how, like, sometimes I have this struggle with people when I talk to people about deep stuff or esoteric stuff or astrology. It's like, oh, I don't get it because it's all rubbish. But it's just like George Carey said, they don't get it because they don't want to get it, because it goes against, it will burst their bubble of their reality ultimately. That's why they don't want to get it. But anyway, moving on, let's continue reading. It logically follows that all parts of one thing are susceptible to the operation of any part. The human body is a epitome of the cosmos. Each sign of the zodiac is represented by the 12 functions of the body and the position of the sun at birth. Therefore, the cell salt corresponding to the sign of the zodiac and function of the body is consumed more rapidly than other salts, and an extra amount is needed to supply the deficiency caused by the sun's influence at particular time. Space will permit only a brief statement of the awakening of humanity to great occult truths. However, the following form from India will indicate the trend of new thought. Dr. Carey's remarkable researches in his domain of healing art have left no stone unturned. His discovery of the zodiacal cell sorts has added a new page in the genesis of healing art, writes Swamathinta Bomia. Okay, so we've come to the end of the first series in relation to cell sorts. This is obviously in relation to Aries, which I'm going to carry on in my next video, as obviously I could do the whole thing in one video, but that would be very long for you guys to watch. So like I said, I'll stop sharing my screen now. Yeah, we're going to do this by season. So in the next video in relation to the cell sorts, we'll look at the cell sorts in relation to Aries, Taurus, and Gemini, and then we'll do it season by season. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you ever have any questions, feel free to message me on the inbox on the Syncretism Society Virtual Academy, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Also, if any of you guys would like a private lesson with me, you can do that by going to the services page on the Syncretism Society website, and then you can email the guys and we can arrange a private booking. But until next time, peace, love, and blessings. I'm out.